We're now joined by Hamid Chriet, the French political commentator based in London. Hamid, a very good evening to you. Thank you so much for joining us. Welcome to The Globe.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
Why are these upcoming French national elections in April so important, Hamid?
Yeah, the stakes is very high today in the French election, and particularly the French president. I believe that today France is facing a very huge challenge about the economic crisis with the COVID-19. The currently President Emmanuel Macron has facing a very challenge about the sanitary crisis and the fractures about the protests and also the health passport which were imposed by the government. And this is, I think, it will be a very huge and controversy debate in France for the next election in April 2022.
So what is at stake this time around?
Oh, there are multiple stakes with this election. I believe that the first stakes is that how to redress the economic situation and to build more employment for the youth, particularly the youth generation in France. We've seen that Macron, when he has been elected since 2017, he promised that he will build a new French economy and renewal prosperity in France. His program was based on the economic and on the startups, as he mentioned previously. So I believe that the major stakes in France and in 2020 for this election will be, of course, to build and rebuild the French economy. We've seen as well the controversy with Australia and America and UK about the armament contract and the both of war. And this is, I think, it's a very huge stage for the presidents, the current presidents, and the other candidates.
But is President Emmanuel Macron still popular, though? I mean, what are his prospects for these elections?
Well, according to some polls, Emmanuel Macron is popular, but you have to take a few distance with the polls. We know that historically all polls have been. You cannot rely on the polls. This is the first of all. And beforehand, I would like to see that nobody will be sure who is going to win the election in 2022. The first round will be in April 2022, but there is no doubt that today the election will be difficult to know which will be the candidate and which will be in the presidency to the Elysee. That's for certain.
Okay, Hamid, let's talk about the right-wing candidates Zemmour and Le Pen. Who are they? Just how influential are they in French politics, and who's likely to come out tops?
Well, you talk about the Zemmour, the new candidate, which was a columnist. I think there is a lot of debate in France about the migration and the integration about Islam. There is a fourth major topics in France. But I believe today these all candidates have, of course, a very huge popularity. But as I mentioned previously, no one is able today to predict who is going to win. And there is a lot of uncertainty in France and about this election. It is very difficult to predict, of course, who will win this election. As I said, the economic crisis has taken place in France. There is a lot of fractures between the French society. What today the French people would like to have is to more stability and prosperity for the youth generation and a hope for the avenues and the futures. And I believe that today, if no one has a very huge and strong program, will not give an answer to this to the French people.
So what are the key electoral issues going into these elections?
Well, as I mentioned, and as I say every time in the French TV, the first party in France is the abstentionist. The abstention is the first party in France. We know that in the last presidential election, more than 58 abstention, have not voted for the French election. So I think that the major stakes today is to retake this French citizenship and give him the hope for the French election, the next French election, and also to convince him the importance of voting for the presidential election. And I believe today this should be the major step that all candidates has to do. So I think today the far right, of course, candidates, they don't have any solution for the France, and I believe that today no one can predict who is going to win for the next election in 2022.
Indeed, it's really, really difficult to predict at this particular point who will come out tops. And what economic reforms, for example, are the French citizens hoping for?
Well, the French citizens want to have the minimum salary, which will be increased for themselves. They want also more employment about the retirement. There is a poor salary for the people. People are struggling to live. They are under poverty. More than 9 million French people are under poverty. And the inequality has taken place in France. They would like to fight the inequality and poverty, also the corruption in France. This is also more social justice for the French citizens, and to respect the measure, as they said, devise in France, which is equality, fraternity, and liberty. This is very important things for the French people, and to have a very candidate who will apply his program. That's what they want to do.
All right, Hamid, lovely chatting to you. Thank you so much for joining us.